How's it going, everybody? It's the CDH Warrior coming at you with another episode of CDH. We survived this. Now what? So, let's roll the title. So, as you saw from the title, last week we did the skeletal system. This week we're doing the muscular system. So, why is the muscular system important when it comes to CDH? What are the issues that can arise with the muscular system? We're going to answer that. We're also going to answer a kind of deep dive into some of the physical issues that can arise in the skeletal system because of the muscular system and how those two are tied together. So, to start off, one of the first issues that can arise is because of all of the scar tissue and all of the incisions and everything that we have to go through, have and go through. It starts cutting into the muscles as well as stitching them down, which means that you can have things that are attached to the muscle. For instance, I have a Gore-Tex patch, and my patch is stitched to the bone and the muscle, which means there's a lot of scar tissue on top and underneath of my, I believe that's the serratus anterior muscle that is right here. Another issue you can have is dependent on, we touched on pectus excavatum last week as one of the skeletal issues. But what that can also change with the muscular system is, and I'll show this, that can change where the attachment points are for the muscle, more specifically your pectoral muscle. So normally the attachment points for the pectoral muscle are here, dead center. So in my case, the attachment points are right in here and run up, and the same on the opposite side. Now, part of that is due to CDH, and part of that is due to the having a pectus in general. But it's one, let's move a little bit further down. So normally you have your abdominal, rectus abdominis muscle. I'm going to kind of drop the camera a little bit. So this would be the rectus abdominis muscle. It would come all the way up here normally and basically come right underneath your ribs. However, due to the CDH and everything, all of this has been stitched down and stitched together. Or at least in my case it has. A lot of others just have one single scar that goes across. But because of that, and because of the scar tissue, you can end up with issues with the rectus abdominis muscle, what everyone considers a six-pack here. But you can also end up with issues here, which is the anterior obliques. What everyone, when you see somebody flex the almost V patterned muscles that follow along your ribs and along your hip bone. Another thing that can be caused to weaken is the trapezius muscle. And I can't really show that, but it will be this muscle right here. So it'll come down kind of across from your shoulders and then come down almost in a kite shape down through your spine. The reason why I wanted to show you all where these muscles were to begin with is because I wanted you all to see the difference. And I will show a graphic here that is the front and side view, specifically in my case, a left side view, and then an anterior and a posterior view of the muscles in the torso, which is basically from here to here. And it's one, the reason why I bring this up is we touched on skeletal issues last week, and I'm going to continue to bring up what we talked about last week because they're tied one and the same. Your skeletal issues can be caused by your muscular issues and vice versa. So in the case of the skeletal muscle, the skeletal system in particular, is you can have, as I was discussing, scoliosis, lordosis, and I'm trying to remember what the other one was. But we were discussing what I actually had versus what everyone considers scoliosis, and what some of the other skeletal issues you can have from CDH were. But it's one... The reason why I started out discussing where some of the attachment points were, let's start kind of up here to begin with. So what issues can you have here? So in my case with the pectus having a pectus excavatum, the attachment points for my pectoral muscles are actually here and here, and they should actually be almost dead center and basically meet in a roundabout way more like this as opposed to being all the way out here. That can actually cause differences in upper body strength, issues with upper body strength as well. That's why you'll see some of us with CDH that were hunchback. And part of that has to do with the spine itself and the skeletal aspect of it. But it also has to do with the way the muscles attach and basically brace your skeleton. So when you think about the human body and the way things work, consider it this way. You have your organs, which are the parts that make it function. You have your skeleton, which is the scaffolding. And then you have your muscles, which help hold everything together and hold everything in. Something that most people don't actually think about all that often. So, how do you deal with this? How do you work on things like this? It's taken me years to try and figure out a good way. I've had to start working out again. The problem is, with CDH and with a lot of I push CDH specifically because that's what I've been through. But it's when with CDH and other rare disorders, if it has a physical element to it, we can actually start losing our physical strength quicker. And it can take us a lot longer to get it back. So, the reason why I started out with the discussion about the muscular system and what all it entails is because your muscular system and the skeletal system, which we talked about last week, are tied together. And I was using the framework analogy. And that works for a general sense, but it doesn't really completely explain everything. So, with the muscular system, you're dealing with and my dad and I touched on this Monday, but I'm going to touch on this again in this video. Is you consider that we've spent weeks, sometimes months in a hospital bed. So we're already physically behind from the muscular system aspect, from just about every aspect. And it takes us a long time to get back to a semblance of normal, to where you're hitting the physical milestones, you're hitting everything you're supposed to. With regards to CDH and the muscular system, you're going to have a hard time trying to build yourself up. So, two big things that I have issues with. It takes a while to build yourself up physically from a muscular standpoint. Trying to gain strength, trying to gain endurance, which is a big problem for us. But it's hard for us to gain. It's also hard, once we gain it, we can maintain it fairly easily. But in the reverse side, that also means it's easy to lose progress. So I used to be relatively physically fit. I won't say that I was built, but I was physically fit to an extent. And in less than 10 years, I lost pretty much all the progress I had made. I was still relatively fit when I was in my early 20s. And I'm just now 28. And I've lost most of what I had built up. So that's something you need to consider. Is there's a lot more work as a CDH survivor to maintain what strength you have. Not just to build more, but just to keep yourself from losing what you have. There was a point I'd work out 4 to 5 times a week. A week. And I frequently got questions from people my age. Why do you work out that much? When are you going to have time for yourself? As when that's what people don't see. Is that, yes, we can build ourselves up. But it takes a lot to maintain once we get there. I mean, I managed to, back when I was in high school, put on about 10 pounds of muscle. That took 6 months of work to put on 10 pounds of muscle. I want you to remember that statistic. 6 months, 10 pounds. That is how long it takes for us to build muscle and build mass, but also build tone and strengthen everything. Am I stating that it's impossible? No. I'm stating that it makes it harder to deal with this. I have since tried to work to build myself back up. Specifically, I want to see if I can build my chest back up and my core, which are really the two big things you need to focus on with CDH if you're going to worry about the muscular system, especially as you get older, worrying about trying to maintain your strength. So I think that's about all I've got for you this week. I think next week I want to do digestion and deal with that, and then we'll go back to kind of more of an open forum style discussion. More about kind of the day-to-day with CDH. So, for the CDH Warrior, I'm Drew Monday, and I will see you next week. Have a great day.